You mentioned the term I wrote down, the instrument of revelation that does not own us.
Exactly.
To me, that's very significant, that if I look at a situation in my life, that whatever is revealed to me through an instrument, that may be a political instrument, it may be an illness, that's an instrument of revelation, isn't it?
Exactly.
It may
If
be.
we understand the body map.
Uh-huh.
Because the instrument of revelation, what we're witnessing throughout humanity, is deep, unresolved grief, sadness, and sorrow, because it is lung formed.
You mentioned the term I wrote down, the instrument of revelation that does not own us.
Exactly.
To me, that's very significant, that if I look at a situation in my life, that whatever is revealed to me through an instrument, that may be a political instrument, it may be an illness, that's an instrument of revelation, isn't it?
Exactly.
It may
if
be.
we understand the body map.
Uh-huh.
Because the instrument of revelation, what we're witnessing throughout humanity, is deep, unresolved grief, sadness, and sorrow, because it is lung formed.
Yeah.
So we can't just look at it as an instrument of revelation alone. We have to start to look at from the divine perspective, saying, okay, not only is it an instrument of revelation, it shows that something's out of balance within the human entity, meaning the whole body of humanity. But the prevailing force right now is deep fear around lung-related issues, which evidence grief, sadness, and unresolved sorrows. So there is a prevailing force that's rising within the body of humanity that's governed spiritually. Everybody thinks they're going to fix it through a shot. Fine, if that's where you're led to be. But I'm seeing the spiritual root. No, this is a tool of revelation showing the body of humanity that you're not right in alignment before God. You're willing to embrace grief, sadness, and sorrow because you've lost sight of the fact that life is perpetual. You've lost sight of the fact that there is no death. So you're still grieving over those that have left you when they were supposed to be born into new life. There's nothing wrongful about the fact that somebody was born into new life. The concern is the person hasn't remembered that. They're still like in loss about somebody transitioning, and they're holding grief deep within their heart. So when they encounter a certain disease upon the earth that manifests great pain and suffering within the lung, so much so that they need external support of breath instead of divine support of breath, what is it showing you as an instrument of revelation? It's showing that humanity has severed itself from the divine and placed between humanity and God grief above all things, or fear of death above all things. That's just the way I see it.
So Aina, staying with that thought, what Larry just described, of that fear and how we deal with it, and specifically as we're talking about this illness that's circulating the world, what are your thoughts on that, Aina, from your, because it's fascinating to me when I talk to both of you. Larry has that logical approach of explaining something.
Yeah.
And you have that compassionate female input. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And that's just where I go. I was just about to say, we're in the world and we're not of it. That's what scripture says and what word rises within me. But you saying that, it brings me back to the childlike. Is it we're to be childlike before God, even in everything that we do? If we could just be in peace, surrender, and just receiving God's love, and not embracing all these things that are coming at us. Because if we could just surrender in just that peace that surpasses all understanding, with God, all things are possible. Healing and restoration are deep within us, in our breath, to just relax, to breathe, to just be at peace. That in itself brings a little bit more clarity that everyone is looking for in these things that are rising in the earth even now. But again, I come back to simplicity and that side of just love walk, That's easier said than done. And many of them will just go, give me a break. Well, that's where it is. It's just in that love walk and surrendering all into God's embrace. And if we could do that, we would see a lot of different changes going on instead of this bickering of who's what, the confusion, wondering what to do. If we could just center upon God's presence and just be, we would have clarity of the words that Larry spoke. That's confirmation. Just surrender. Because there's a lot of them, a lot are out there asking these questions and answers they are not getting, because no one has the answer but the one. And we know that that is God. And what is your choice? So we're here to bring that to light, to any darkness, the light of the love of God, and to setting people free of other options, of not just surrendering into something that you're so controlled and in suffrage or scared or fear, that there is a God that loves you. And if you surrender into his embrace, other things are opening up to you of what you should be doing. And that's first seeking him. So it's simple. That's how I keep it.